Ray Cox is lying face down on a metal table when the machine fires. It's not supposed to feel like anything. Maybe a little warmth. That's what they told him. He's done this treatment before, but this time it feels like someone just poured gasoline on his spine and lit a match. He screams. He tries to get up. The machine fires again. He rolls off the table and crawls toward the door, pounding on the lead with both fists, trying to get out. In the next room, the technician is staring at her computer screen. She can't hear him. The intercom is broken, and her screen isn't showing anything alarming. Just a single line of green text at the bottom. Malfunction 54. Press P to proceed. She's seen error messages like this all day. The machine throws them constantly. She assumes it's just another glitch, so she presses P. Ray Cox was supposed to receive 200 rads of radiation, a controlled, therapeutic dose designed to shrink his tumor. Instead, the machine just hit him with somewhere between 16,000 and 25,000 rads, enough to burn him from the inside out. The metal safety plate that's supposed to protect patients, it wasn't in place. The beam fired at full lethal power directly into his body. When the hospital called the company that built the machine and told them what happened, the engineers looked at their code and said it was impossible. The Therac 25 was perfect, they said. This couldn't happen. But Ray Cox couldn't walk anymore. The radiation had burned through his spinal cord. He'd be dead in 5 months, and 3 weeks later, in that exact same room, the machine would do it again. I'm James Tudor. This is the file on Malfunction 54. To understand how a cancer treatment machine became a weapon, you have to look at what it replaced. Older radiation machines, like the Therac 20, were built with physical, hardware-based safety systems. If you wanted to fire a high-energy X-ray beam, a heavy metal plate had to physically slide into place first. That plate scattered and softened the beam so it wouldn't burn through the patient like a blowtorch. If that plate wasn't locked in position, the machine literally couldn't fire. The circuits wouldn't connect. It was mechanically impossible to hurt someone. But in the 1980s, computers were taking over. The Canadian company that built these machines, AECL, wanted the Therac 25 to be faster, sleeker, more efficient, entirely software controlled. So they made a decision. They removed most of the physical interlocks. Why rely on clunky metal switches when you can just write code? The software would make sure the plate was in place before firing. The software would be the safety net. They handed the responsibility for human life over to a computer program, a program written, as far as anyone can tell, by a single programmer, with almost no independent review, no formal testing process. The hardware safeties that had protected patients for decades were gone, and in their place was code that nobody had stress tested. The software wasn't just buggy. It was one of the deadliest user interfaces ever designed. When you're building a system that can deliver lethal doses of radiation, the interface needs to give the operator clear, immediate feedback. It needs to scream at you if something's wrong. The Therac 25 did the opposite. The machine threw error codes constantly, all day, every day. But the codes weren't in plain English. They were cryptic. Malfunction 1, Malfunction 20, Malfunction 54. There was no manual that explained what any of them meant. And when an error popped up, the machine would just pause and ask, press P to proceed, or hit Enter to reset. In user experience design, there's a concept called habituation. If you show someone a warning 100 times, and 99 of those times it means nothing, They stopped reading it. They stopped thinking. They just hit enter. The Therac 2.5 trained its operators to ignore alarms. It cried wolf so often that the technicians assumed every error was meaningless, just the machine being finicky. They didn't know that malfunction 54 inches actually meant the dose sensors weren't working. It meant the machine was firing at full power, but the system couldn't tell. It meant someone was about to get burned alive. The interface lied. It presented a catastrophic failure as a minor hiccup. But why was the metal plate out of position in the first place? It came down to a programming flaw called a race condition. The Therac 2.5 had a text-based interface. The operator had to type commands into several fields: treatment type, dose, target area. When the machine was new, technicians typed slowly. They were still learning, but after months of using it, they got fast. Their fingers flew, and that speed broke the software. Here's what happened. If a technician accidentally typed X for X-ray mode, then realized their mistake and quickly hit the up arrow, changed it to E for electron mode, and pressed enter, all within about 8 seconds. The software couldn't keep up. The screen would update. It would show the operator that the safe, low-energy electron mode was selected, but deep in the machine's memory, a different part of the code was still executing the first command. The metal safety plate would swing out of the way to prepare for X-ray mode, but the beam would power up to maximum energy. The screen said one thing, the machine did another. The operator would press beam. The patient would scream, and the screen would flash, malfunction 54. The technician had no way of knowing what just happened. The interface never told them. When patients started showing up with radiation burns, the hospitals called AECL, the manufacturer. AECL's response was textbook corporate denial. They sent letters to the hospitals saying in writing, "There have been no overexposures with the Therac 2.5. The system is designed to prevent this." They blamed the hospitals. They blamed the operators. They suggested the patients must have had pre-existing conditions or that the burn marks were allergic reactions to the treatment table. They were so convinced their code was flawless that they refused to believe the physical evidence in front of them. People were being burned. Skin was blistering, and AECL kept saying it was impossible. It took a physicist named Fritz Hager at a Texas cancer clinic to crack it. After 2 of his patients were burned, Hager refused to use the machine. He spent days alone in the treatment room, typing commands over and over, trying to recreate the error. Finally, he typed fast enough. He triggered the race condition. He measured the radiation output. It was off the charts. He called AECL with the data. He proved mathematically that their machine was killing people. Only then did they start to listen. Between 1985 and 1987, the Therac 2.5 killed or permanently injured at least 6 people. Ray Cox, the man burned in East Texas, never walked again. The radiation destroyed his spinal cord. He was paralyzed from the waist down and died 5 months later from complications. But the nightmare at that hospital wasn't over. 3 weeks after Ray was burned, another man, Vernon Kidd, walked into the same room at the East Texas Cancer Center for treatment on a small spot of skin cancer near his ear. The machine threw the same error. The operator pressed P. Kidd was hit in the side of the head with a massive overdose. The radiation burned through his temporal lobe and brainstem. He screamed that his head was on fire. He fell into a coma and died. The Therac 2.5 wasn't immediately recalled. It took years of pressure before the FDA forced AECL to fix the software and reinstall physical safety locks. Today, the Therac 2.5 is taught in almost every computer science and medical device design course in the world. It's the ultimate cautionary tale. It proves that a bad interface isn't just annoying, it can kill. When you strip away physical safeguards and rely entirely on software, you're placing blind faith in something invisible. And if that code has a flaw, if the interface hides critical information, people die. The operators of the Therac 2.5 didn't kill those patients. The interface did. It hid the truth. It trained them to ignore warnings. And when the moment came, it pulled the trigger. I'm James Tudor. This is Empire Archives. Subscribe.